anything else. By the way, we're going to share the live stream links once we go on live stream to our chat. So we request our OC members to share the link on your respective social media accounts. So we're going to live stream to the Facebook page of the Global People Summit and to YouTube. So we will be providing the links later. And we're actually inviting the public to watch the media launch through the live stream. Okay, everyone, just for a heads up, we're going to open the room now to everyone who's in the waiting room, but we are going to officially start in 5 minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll go. Thank you.
Is that okay?
Hello, Lauren.
Steven? Hello, Steven?
Yes.
Can you send a link for Rasan, please?
Razan is already in the room.
Okay.
Hi, Ruda. Thank you.
Hi, Rasan.
Let's start now. Go ahead, Lauren.
Welcome, everyone. We're so excited to have you here today. This is the media launch of the Global People's Summit on Food Systems. My name is Lauren Cardelli. I'm with the Grow and Culture. We're on the organizing committee. We are so grateful to be here in partnership with our brothers and sisters from all over the world. We are the voices of the peasant movement. We are the communities that are fighting for equity and justice and sustainability throughout our food system. I want to take a moment to invite everyone here to visit the website hungryforchange.info. That's hungry for the number 4 change.info. Please follow at Our Food Systems on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please share your thoughts on social media. Tweet about this event. Share it on Facebook. Please use the hashtag Our Food Systems and Hungry for Change. This is important that we get as many people coming together united in this movement. We're really going to take a moment here to start this program with the trailer of the Global People's Summit. After that, we're going to have Sarojini Rangam of Pan-Asian Pacific, PNAP, to discuss the corporate capture of the UN food systems. But as of right now, we'd like to open up with this beautiful film. Wonderful. Thank you, guys. As you can see, smallholder and peasant farmers on just a small fraction of agricultural land outproduce industrial food systems. Yet corporate systems have taken over and controlled and monopolized our global food system and the narrative on who feeds the world. I want to, in the greatest honor, introduce Sarojini Rangam of the Pan-Asian Pacific. Sarojini, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Lauren.
So good to have you.
Thank you. Yes, it's a pleasure to be here and to be in the launch of the PAN-AP, PCFS, many groups who are part of the organizing committee, working towards trying to raise the voices of farmers, farm workers, indigenous peoples, rural women, and all the small food producers that basically put food on our plates. And that's the struggle, because we are facing the UN Food Systems Summit, which was heralded as this new transformation, but it was headed by big corporations. Agnes Kalibata, who we know is part of AGRA, a green Alliance for Green Revolution for Africa, which is really pushing corporate-driven solutions and technologies that are not pro-people, that is not for smallholder farmers. And what we are seeing is that this actually pushes and intensifies the current neoliberal policies and corporate agriculture. And this system is really um, continuing to exploit our land and resources, marginalize our smallholder farmers, and basically remove them from the equation as farmers, as those who are producing food for us, and they want to move towards a very corporate kind of agriculture. And it's very, very, very clear. If you look at the action tracks, you can see them um, in the World Food Summit, System Summit of the UN. One, it says ensuring ensuring access to safe and nutritious food. But if you look at who is actually bank rolled this move, um, the leader of this track is the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, or GAIN, and it was established in 2002. And the main funders are the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And what are they basically pushing for? They're really pushing, and they're bankrolled by corporate giants such as BASF, who profits from the highly hazardous pesticides that pollutes the world, pollutes our environment, and harms and kills our farmers. 385 million farmers and workers are poisoned every year through acute unintentional pesticide poisoning. And that's 385 million every year. And that's the new data that is coming out. And still, we are talking about pushing this kind of corporate agriculture in the world. The other is GAIN actually talks about biofortification. Biofortification, we know, is just tweaking, and providing certain nutrients like vitamin A. But that's not the solution. If you eat rice, corn that has a bit of vitamin A, that doesn't solve the problem of malnutrition and that causes night blindness. So what are we talking about in terms of this kind of minute technologies that basically profits only the big corporations, not the people, not the ones that are really suffering from vitamin A. They need a nutritious and food that is grown agroecologically, that is full of biodiversity in the farms, in the environment, in the ecology. So that's what is needed. Then, if you look at Action Track 2, it is led by the executive chair of EAT Foundation, and it is co-founded by Wellcome Trust. And if you remember what it develops, the Wellcome Trust is actually established by a company that became GlaxoSmithKline, big pharmas. So you find that they are pushing for all this chemical fake food as well. And big pharma is part of this plan of this UN Food System Summit. Then you have track 4, equitable livelihoods. You have equitable livelihoods, but it leaves out the billions of farmers and smallholders out of the discussion of the looking for solutions. And it's basically advancing the land grabbers and their concept of equitable livelihoods. And Bill Gates is now the biggest owner of America's farmlands. And then you have Cargill expanding its lands, farmlands throughout the world, and particularly in the US. So you find that it's really not about people's voices. It's not about people's solution, farmers, peasant solutions. It's not about the real small food producers. It's really more to get the corporations to get more profits, to get more resources. And that's the kind of the UN food systems that we are seeing. We are not seeing any change, although there have been criticisms, and campaigns to open it to be more transparent, to be more inclusive, but it's not happening because once you start to think and mobilize corporations, their solutions are let's make more money, let's make more profits, not for the it's not for the people. It's not for the peasants. It's not for the smallholders. And that is why we as PEN, AP, PCFS, and many others who you will hear this tonight, we are saying we have to have the voices of the farmers, of the peasants, of the agricultural workers, and bring all these small food producers to give the solutions because they know what they need in terms of producing food for all, for ensuring land and resources for the landless and for women. So we need that right now. And so thank you very much for being with us, and join us for the People's Food Systems Summit that is really for the people, for the farmers, for the consumers, and for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Saro. I really appreciate that because the bold idea here is what kind of food system do we want? Do we want a food system that commodifies the people who actually grow our food? Do we want them that exploits and extracts? Or do we want one that nurtures us all? This is an important moment for us all to take a stand with the producers of the world. Let us now move on to the next segment of our program, which we get the opportunity to hear from these voices, the people's voices that were displaced and not invited towards the UN Food System Summit. The members of the organizing committee of the Global People's Summit who will share their issues and concerns of their respective sector and region that the summit disregards or fails to address.
I am Chennaya, General Secretary of APVU, Trade Union Federation of Agriculture Workers, Fisherfolk and indigenous people fighting for their land rights in India. I am also Chairperson of Asian Peasant Coalition. APC is seriously concerned about these communities to have access to land so that they produce the food for themselves and address the poverty and hunger. Secondly, the policy should support the small producers to have access to the market to decide what the prices for what they produce. Number three, the policy should support the peasants to own the land, have the right to produce what they want to eat and what they want to sell to the market. It is not the corporate decides or market economy decides what the farmers to produce. It is in this context APC is seriously bringing to the notice of the global population and also United Nations to see that these issues of land access to the producers, land access to the workers, not to the corporates is the main serious concern. We in India have been fighting against the corporate driven agriculture and its support policy systems for the last 6 months, opposing 3 legislations. It is in this context we bring to the notice of the UN Food System Summit to understand the concerns of the people is to see that the poverty should be eradicated only possible by producing the food by the producers, the real farmers, and they should have the right to access to the land and resources. And any attempt of driving these people from agriculture, out of agriculture, is pushing the world population towards much worse situation of the hunger.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Abbas Milham from Palestinian Farmers Union and Arab Network for Sovereignty over Food Production. We believe that big corporates and the big monopolies mandate is to destroy national food systems in any country. In order to be able to have sovereignty over food, we need to have sovereignty over resources for food production. Farmers and the small farmers in a country like Palestine, they have no sovereignty, no control over the resources to produce the food. In this case, I mean the water and the land. And both water and land, unfortunately, are in the hand of and under the control of the Israeli occupation, which really hinders the possibility of our small-scale farmers to produce the food they want, and they struggle in order to reach that level of having, alternative solutions in order to be able to produce food any country should want, based on the demands of the people rather than on the demands of the big corporates and the international markets. And I would like to see this moment and call and ask all the colleagues around this world to impose the pressure needed on occupations and on settlements that aim to destroy a food system in any country and destroy land and control resources of food production, to struggle against them and to stop them and put them accountable for the deeds they are doing that are really harmful for people and for farmers at the same time. Thanks.
Every day, indigenous peoples are standing to protect their territories from the threats by destructive and unsustainable projects. We are being killed, criminalized, and vilified for defending our ancestral land and territories and our sustainable food systems and practices from the threats of extractivism, mega projects, and agri-business plantations. All of this leave us landless and impoverished. The state forces and paramilitaries linked to the big corporations and international financial institutions that fund these massive land grabs have murdered many of us with impunity. With every atrocity against indigenous peoples, day after day, we are losing our traditional indigenous knowledge and traditional food systems that are vital to our survival. With every native community and tribal villages forcibly displaced, we are losing our land for sustainable food production, which are crucial for our livelihood, way of life, and distinct culture and existence. It is highly unfortunate and alarming that our contribution and aspirations are diminished systematically in the UN Food System Summit, where corporate control and neoliberal policies continue to dominate. The overwhelming evidence has proven that corporatized and profit-oriented modern food and farming systems are unsustainable and only contributes to high greenhouse gas emissions and biodiversity loss. In contrast, indigenous peoples' assertion of our right to self-determination, our own way of life, and our indigenous food systems have proven to ensure a productive, sustainable, and equitable food system for the people. It is just and urgent that indigenous peoples join the Global Peoples Summit on Food Systems to advance a just, equitable, and sustainable food systems. We say, enough is enough to the UN Food System Summit that excludes and marginalizes us further. Thank you very much.
This is Hakim Baliraine, the chairperson of Eastern and Southern Africa Small Scale Farmers Forum, and knowing very well that small scale farm agriculture in Sub-Saharan Africa has a massive socio-economic importance. We don't only do agriculture for the sake of eating off of crops, but our livelihood. So whoever tampers with the farming system of the small scale farmers is taking away our livelihood. And we know very well that more than 60% of the population is smallholder farmers on the continent of Africa. About 23% of the sub-Saharan Africa GDP come from agriculture, and almost 68% in most of the countries, employment is based on agriculture. So when somebody tempers the corporate capital of the food system, tempers with agriculture, they are tampering with our livelihood. The other thing is that this group, what we expect from the Global People's Summit is that we shall be fighting for the rights of the smaller order farmers. And this we need recognition for our contribution towards building and feeding the nation and the people of Africa. And then the other thing is ownership, control, and use of natural resources. We know very well that our natural resources are being plundered, being taken away by the corporations. This we shall not accept, because where we don't have our natural resources under our control, then our livelihood is also tempered upon. Then there is the equal share of the national resource envelope. You find that the corporations influence a lot on the national policies in our countries, in that the policies which come out do not favor the small-scale farmers. So at the end of the day, the share which comes from the national budget and other resources do not favor the small-scale farmers. So we feel that during this Global People's Summit, we shall be able to champion and choice out our concerns.
Hello everyone, I speak on behalf of the Asia Pacific Forum on Women, Law and Development, or APWLD. However, initial indications from the Food Systems Summit are that women's perspectives, particularly those of rural, indigenous, migrant, and urban poor women in the Asia Pacific, are unlikely to bear any weight on the expected outcomes or the summit process itself. APWLD believes that the nexus of patriarchy with militarism, fundamentalisms, and neoliberal globalization is responsible for gross violations of women's human rights and fundamental freedoms, including women's rights to food, land, and resources. Massive land and resource grabs by multinational and foreign-backed corporations, aided by state armed forces and neoliberal laws, continue unabated across the region. Women human rights defenders and their organizations who stand to defend their land, food, and communities are met with state repression and violence, even illegal arrests and extrajudicial killings. Yet none of these conflicts are even remotely recognized in the discourse around the FSS. In fact, the mention of women's organizations is unceremoniously relegated to a blurb on the role of the private sector and the FSS. A small yet telling indication of another ambitious forum that fails to account the fundamental gender inequalities and inequities within the problem that it is presumably trying to solve. Meanwhile, it declares that MNCs have an important role and responsibility, and hence are expected to bring forward solutions and commitments. Therefore, their representation and active engagement is important. It will be naive to think that their engagement in this summit will lead to a just and equitable food systems for women in Asia and the Pacific. That is why APWLD has chosen to actively participate in the Global People's Summit, to challenge the dominant neoliberal narratives and power structure in the global food systems, and amplify the voices of women and their struggles in the region. We are committed to co-shaping people's food sovereignty agenda and a pathway to achieve it together with all of you. In solidarity as always, thank you so much.
We are concerned to see how many private actors and companies driving agribusiness systems that cause biodiversity loss, climate change, pollution, and land conflicts are leading the conversations about the future of food, water, and agriculture for the entire world population. We know small family farms are rapidly giving way to the large-scale factory farm move. Food sovereignty, agroecology, and sustainable diets are not mentioned as part of the solutions, but agribusiness models continue to appear as the focus of the agendas. We believe that solutions must be agreed upon the basis of human rights and ethics, including the elimination of legal, fiscal, and other incentives for unsustainable livestock, which are major drivers of deforestation and soil degradation, financial support and subsidies for more sustainable forms of agricultural production that improves animal welfare, the ability of healthy and nutritious food, climate change mitigation and adaptation are required, but are measures that international solutions are not approaching. We consider solutions to address livestock emissions through carbon markets don't attain negative externalities such as impacts on water, biodiversity, animal welfare, and family incomes that are affected for the land grabbing under the sustainable intensification of livestock production narratives. Transparency, participation, dialogue, consultation, alliances are required at all levels and at all times because sharing information on decisions made by others is not participation. The voices on realities of women, rural communities, and small farmers must be reflected in national and international policy-making processes, including the UNFSS. My name is Milena Bernal, and I work with the Global Forest Coalition. Thank you for listening.
Good day. I'm Laiko Vero speaking in behalf of Ibon International. For us, the UN Food Systems Summit fails to address three major issues. One, the corporate and elite dominance of the global food system. Two, the role of repression in reinforcing this power. And three, the solutions to be found instead with the collective action of farmers and rural organizations. First, the UN Food Systems Summit disregards the roots of unsustainable consumption and production in the power of agrochemical corporate giants, elite-led governments and institutions. The blanket promotion of foreign investment means more land grabbing, more pesticide-driven plantations that concentrate land only to a few. Trade and investment rules of the World Trade Organization drive liberalization as seen in flooding of rice and other food imports in the Philippines, destroying local food production and further impoverishing producers. The corporate capture of UNFSS defeats the goal of establishing sustainable food systems as it aligns the global policy of food production to the interests of profit generation. Secondly, the UNFSS is silent on the political structures that reinforce corporate power, especially the trends of political repression against rural movements defending their land. Militaristic measures on top of the pandemic are taking place across the global south, including in Indonesia and Kenya. Again, in the Philippines, the draconian Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 has given newfound license to systematically target rural movements asserting rights to land and food. Lastly, the corporate capture of UNFSS translates to a fundamental neglect of the roles of farmers and peasants in transforming the system. Food sovereignty means acknowledging that the production, distribution, especially of agricultural products, are to be driven by the people taking part in the actual process. Our research in the Philippines and Kenya proves that the people are capable of this. Farmer and indigenous communities have the knowledge and the ability to toil and nurture the land to feed themselves and the people in sustainable production patterns that also show their capacity to determine the direction of their economic and social life. Thank you very much and good day.
The UN Food Systems Summit has already been hijacked by corporations. This is clear when the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres appointed Agnes Calibata as his special envoy to the UN Food Systems Summit and its partnership with the World Economic Forum. Calibata is the protege of philanthro-capitalist Bill Gates, whose dirty hands are deep in the promotion of GMOs with his support of golden rice, the first GM crop for direct consumption of humans. Bill Gates' portfolio included stocks in Coca-Cola and Amazon. With Bill Gates leading from behind, the UN Food Systems Summit will be heading in the same direction as what peoples all over the world feared most: more of industrial model of agriculture and food system where corporations held sway, depriving farmers, pastoralists, indigenous people, and rural women of the means of survival, their seeds, their land, their culture. With Bill Gates chairing Cascade Investment firm, which controls Beyond Meat, which promote plant-based meat, think 3D printed meat, and Impossible Foods. Also alternative to an alternative to meat, which is plant-based, which is mostly made from GM soya. And also John Deere, agricultural machine manufacturer, which is into big data, artificial intelligence, and robotics. It would seem to us that farming in the future will be without farmers. For us Filipinos, in our country, the Philippines, the UN Food System Summit failed to look into the effects of GM seeds that exacerbated the impacts of climate change. For example, one of the causes of heavy flooding in Cagayan Valley is the massive plantation of GM corn with the concomitant massive use of glyphosate.
Pemuda merupakan tenaga produktif yang sangat penting dalam sistem pangan dunia. Meski mayoritas bekerja dalam produksi pangan, pemuda tidak mendapatkan hak atas pangan dan nutrisi yang memadai untuk produktivitas dan kemajuannya, secara ekonomi, politik, dan kebudayaan. Khususnya kemajuan pendidikan dan keterampilan di negeri-negeri setengah feodal seperti Indonesia. Pemuda semakin menderita karena penghisapan dalam pertanian terbelakang, berbasis monopoli tanah, serta penghisapan kapitalis dalam manufaktur di bawah dominasi imperialisme Amerika Serikat. Peace Agro adalah salah satu program imperialis di Indonesia. Peace Agro memberikan keuntungan bagi korporasi melalui monopoli tanah, sarana dan komoditas pertanian pangan serta perdagangan. Bayer, Syngenta, Unilever, Nestle, Cargill Indofood, dan Sinarmas adalah sederet korporasi yang mengakumulasi keuntungan. Proyek Food Estate juga disediakan oleh Presiden Jokowi untuk mengembangkan kapital dan keuntungan lebih besar. Tidak hanya sektor pertanian, monopoli pangan juga terjadi di sektor perikanan, tangkap, dan budidaya. Kondisi dan program serupa telah dan akan dikembangkan di berbagai negeri di Asia Pasifik, Afrika, dan Amerika Latin. Keuntungan terus diakumulasi oleh imperialis dan tuan tanah besar, sedangkan kemerosotan terus dialami oleh pemuda, rakyat, dan bahkan kehancuran lingkungan terus meluas. Pemuda harus bangkit, aktif dalam tim saling bantu untuk mengembangkan pertanian pangan kolektif rakyat di desa-desa di berbagai negeri. Pemuda menuntut hentikan sistem pangan yang tidak adil yang mempertahankan monopoli tanah, alat-alat, bibit, pupuk, hasil pertanian hingga perdagangan. Pemuda harus berjuang bersama kaum tani dan kelas buruh untuk menciptakan sistem pangan baru di industri dan industri nasional berbasiskan pada kemenangan dan reform sejati. Hidup pemuda Indonesia, hidup pemuda sedunia, panjang umur solidaritas.
Wow. Thank you for all those voices from around the world. It's important to to take a moment to recognize how our food system is designed. You know, our food system is designed to produce calories, not nutrition, to consolidate control, not democratize production, and to protect the bottom line, not feed the world. When we talk about participation, what does that mean? Does that mean to invite people to be tokenized? Does that mean to listen and deeply investigate their concerns? Does it mean to be part of a process of co-organizing the agenda? Does it mean selecting the coordinating committee and the summit leader like Agnes? What does participation mean? And this veiled attempt of UNFSS to be inclusive, the world sees right through it. It's not true participation. They didn't want to hear the voices of peasant farmers. They didn't want to hear their concerns. They were focused more on drone technology and precision farming rather than agroecology and food sovereignty. The goal was to further cement the consolidation and the control of our food system. So I want to thank everyone from our organizing committee members for sharing their perspectives from across the world. And we can now proceed to discussion of the Global People's Summit. To provide us a brief overview of the GPS, here are some highlights of the Hunger for Justice episode. Do we have the video ready? Okay, so then as we're figuring out to get the video ready, I want to talk to you guys about the Hunger for Justice. Hunger for Justice is a digital program in collaboration with peasant and indigenous and smallholder farmers around the world. We work to elevate the stories and amplify the messages of the peasant food web, focusing on the social and human side of our food system rather than the purely environmental. So often these voices are silenced, ignored, and the Hunger for Justice is an open forum, an opportunity to listen to the pulse of the food system. And a growing culture launched that a year ago. And I think it was a month or two ago, we had an episode on the corporate takeover of the United Food Systems Summit. And so here is some highlights from that episode.
This UNFSS is giving a platform to corporations to peddle lies and half-truths.
Yeah.
A multinational profit-oriented corporations led summit will push for GMOs, fertilizers, and pesticides. It is a global policy space whose capture means that the fight for food sovereignty has lost ground. We must defend what we have achieved. We must use every opportunity not to lose ground. The gains we have made cannot be reversed. We need to demonstrate at multiple scales and in multiple contexts that the model we are advancing is feasible and viable.
And this we cannot allow, where people are malnourished, where people are impoverished, where people are being thrown in jail when they ask for the rights. The most basic right is right to land. The most basic right is the right to own our own seeds, to grow the kind of food we want based on agroecology, based on our own traditional methods, extremely scientific methods. I come from Pakistan, India, where civilizations are more than 5,000 years old, where we know what agriculture is. We are very proud to say that we know how to grow our own food, which is healthy and nutritious and fills everybody's system. So we challenge this. We do not allow the corporates to come and take over our systems. The entire belief of the Asian movements is bring everybody out on the streets, whether it is our children, it is our elderly, it is our women, it is our youth, it is our students, it is our workers, and we will do that. And we are working very, very hard to ensure that kind of participation.
Our food systems, as we know, connect all of us never before. But it is based on unequal trade routes, inequality, and plunder. So what we are looking for is a people's right framework to transform our food system and to build on the production and trade that is decolonized, that is based on solidarity and lasting peace. So we need the people's right to development and sovereignty ensured. We also think that the right to healthy food and should also encompass a healthy planet.
With that premise, we must think We must link our arms and raise our unity higher to fight for food systems which put our fundamental rights above profit, our planet over corporations, our sovereignty over monopolies. Indeed, there's a need for Global People's Summit on Food Systems, for People's Summits. It's being led by the rural people of the Global South, the hungry, those living in conflict countries, the most oppressed and marginalized of the world. The People's Summit, it's a counter event to the UN Food System Summit.
If we get more support on board, this movement shall bail us out of this hijacked so-called UN food system and its outcomes, and will help stop the imposition of any other initiative that might be brought in the future, and will be a big lesson to the corporation and multinational companies. We want our future in our hands, not in the hands of the hungry and ill-heeled corporations.
Those were some short clips from the 2-hour program. For any of you that didn't see it, it's on the YouTube channel, A Growing Cultures YouTube. Please check it out, along with many other videos from the peasant struggle around the world. Now, it's a great honor to introduce Sylvia Malari. She is the co-chairperson of the People's Coalition on Food Sovereignty. Sylvia, it's so great to see you today.
Greetings. Thank you, Laura. Greetings, everyone. I am Sylvia Maliari of the People's Coalition on Food Sovereignty. Together with Rosanne Swiker, we co-chair the coalition. The PCFS is a growing, global, South-led organization or network of small rural food producers working for food sovereignty. We are a co-organizer of the Global People Summit to change the world food system. We need to radically transform the global food systems. However, as mentioned by our co-organizers and partners, there is no sign nor any indication that the upcoming UN Food System Summit is supposed to confront any of that, except to rebrand the very same tech-heavy and, frankly, imperialist neoliberal agenda that created these unjust and inequitable global food systems in the first place. To confront the current green, blue, and sustainable washing happening in the official process, and to highlight the key solutions that movements have been forwarding for decades. We are linking arms today for the GPS, or the Global People Summit on Food Systems. Since last year, through the Hungry for Change campaign, the PCFS and its key members, such as the Pan-Asia Pacific and the Asian Peasant Coalition, as well as allies, have continued to gather momentum in developing actionable pro-people and pro-planet alternatives to radically transform the food systems. With over 100 organizations saying no to the corporate capture of the UNFSS, the GPS is born out of the long-standing discontent in the ever-increasing role of corporations in controlling global food systems, now being enabled by the partnership of the UN and the corporate lobby World Economic Forum. As a grassroots and South-led initiative, the GPS aims to put the voices of the marginalized and the most oppressed at the helm of agenda setting in the transformation of our food systems. At the heart of transforming our food systems are the national food sovereignty and peasant movements. National consultations, dialogues, and summits in at least 19 countries in the Global South will be held between today and August. 9 from Asia, there will be 3 from Africa, and 7 from Latin America. These will produce national agendas in transforming the food systems, domestic analysis in barriers of development in food and agriculture, and demands to break new grounds in the transformation. There will also be sectoral consultations and summits which will highlight the marginalized voices and consolidate the vision, demands, and aspirations of the toiling sectors that are the backbone of today's global food system. These voices of landless farmers and agricultural workers, of rural women, of indigenous peoples, of fisher folks, of the rural youth, are those displaced in the UNFSS, yet they bear the brunt of feeding the world. Then there will be 4 regional summits in Asia, West Asia, and North Africa, Africa, and Latin America to be held to consolidate and develop national agendas and highlight regional solutions and demands for regional and global policy and development arenas. Rural communities, people's organizations, people's movements, and civil society have long been providing actionable solutions to the current food and rights crisis. To support and develop the national and sectoral agendas, thematic research workshops will be held between July and August. These workshops will include the following: on people's food sovereignty, on the right to food, on community-led agroecology, on the peasant right to land, on multi-stakeholderism, on wars, occupation, sanctions, and conflict. Meanwhile, a grassroots campaign to broaden and popularize the 4 pillars of transformation is also ongoing. Under the Hungry for Change banner, we have recently launched the Global Day of Action against corporate capture of food systems. Our partner organizations are also organizing various events, virtual and on ground, to promote and highlight these pro-people and pro-planet solutions. We intend to confront these corporations, their enablers, and their agenda to the ground. In July, as a counter pre-summit, we are launching on-ground mass actions in the Philippines and elsewhere to highlight the disenfranchised voices. In September, we intend to gather the broadest number of rural people's organizations, civil society organizations, and advocates to draw up a declaration for a radical transformation of the current food regimes towards just, equitable, healthy, and sustainable food systems. The Global People's Summit on Food Systems will also develop a People's Action Plan, call it PAP, if you like, to realize the said goal. We aim to do the 3-day summit in a hybrid form, with street conferences in different countries as base of the global virtual summit. And on the 3rd day, the plenary will end with a coordinated global day of action for a just, equitable, healthy, and sustainable food systems to highlight the role and engagement of the people in achieving the goal. There is an urgent need to reclaim our voices today, especially today that we are at the cusp of fresh waves in land grabbing and plunder, hunger amid plenty, neocolonialism, and neoliberal subversion of our rights, our planet, and our future to profit. We urge everyone who stands with the rural food producers, our planet, our future, to join us, and together we can build a future of just, equitable, healthy, and sustainable food systems. Long live international solidarity. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. That was amazing. Long live international solidarity. As you guys can tell, there's so many ways to get involved. There's street and local organizing, there's digital events, there's amazing opportunities to stand in solidarity with peasant communities the world over. Please, please visit the Hungry for Change website, as well as use our food system social media platforms and tweet and share and Facebook and everything you can. So just so everybody understands, the organizing committee of the Global People's Summit consists of 17 members. That's the People's Coalition on Food Sovereignty, PCFS. That's Pan-Asian Pacific, PANAP. There's the Asian Peasant Coalition, the Arab Group for the Protection of Nature, PN. There's the Arab People for Food Sovereignty, the Eastern and Southern African Small Scale Farmers Forum, ESAP, Indigenous Peoples Movement for Self-Determination and Liberation, IPM SDL. There's the Coalition of Agricultural Workers International, CAWI. There's Asian Rural Women's Coalition, ARWC, Global Forest Coalition, People Over Profit, Asian Pacific Research Network, IBON International, Asian Pacific Forum on Women, Land, and Development, the Stop Golden Rice Network, PAN North America, A Growing Culture, and Youth for Food Sovereignty. The Global People Summit on Food System is open to all groups and individuals who share its vision in realizing just, equitable, healthy, and sustainable food systems. We invite everyone to take part in this, right? Help us amplify the People Summit and our call for just, equitable food systems, right? Participate in the People Summit and build up activities and events. Support the initiatives and campaigns of the People Summit. Volunteer and donate. So right now we have an opportunity for the media representatives that have joined us today. Thank you all. Please, this is an opportunity for question and answer and dialogue. So raise your hand feature or use the chat or comment box to ask questions. Questions from the media will be prioritized, and we hope that together we can have a dialogue on the importance of this event. So please feel free to engage and ask questions. And the questions can be directed to all of us or any of the present organizing committee members. Have the dates for all the events just mentioned been set yet? That's from Teresa Welsh. Thank you, Teresa, for that question. Who would like to answer that? Sylvia?
Yes, Lauren, Teresa, thank you for that. The organizing committee are still finalizing the specific dates for all the targeted events in running from August to September. But that one, this coming July, as a pre-summit, the details are being ironed out with the concerned organizations and movements, for example, in the Philippines. And yes, we will gladly, Lauren, may I add, that we will be gladly sending to all of you the specific dates as soon as, which will be forthcoming already, the dates.
Thank you. I want to also add that I don't believe the United Nations Food System Summit has released their dates yet as well. It's changing. So we're trying to be responsive to that as well. Do we have any other questions from anyone attending today? How about Hakeem? Are you with us today? I'd like to ask a question. Do we have Hakeem here today? I don't think so. Okay. All right, what about Chris? Chris, are you here today?
Yes, Lauren.
Why don't you talk about some of the work for seed rights against the multinational treaties like UPAV and other treaties that are predatory on local seed sovereignty systems and the work that you're doing in Philippines to combat them?
Yeah, we've been doing, of course, farmer-led rice breeding, no? But because we are a relatively old organization, we've been expanding to other crops as well, like corn, and even native chicken and native hogs. We've been within the context of a diversified integrated farming system, so that our farmers will be resilient, or our communities, no, will be resilient to climate change. Not only that, they are also able to mitigate the greenhouse gases, no, with all of the programs of Masipag, wherein the people's organization are able to decisively manage the value chains, no, from seed production, improvement, and until marketing and processing. We have done that. Almost 100 people's organization of Masipag are into marketing and processing already. That's why many are really climate resilient, and even during the pandemic, most of our people's organization didn't suffer hunger. In fact, they were able to produce surplus food for the local community. It's really, we're really inspired by the by the results of what our farmers organizations have done, no? Of course, we are very supportive of the land cultivation campaign by providing training on diversified integrated farming system, and providing seeds, especially vegetables and rice. That's what we have done, and we are very happy for that. Thank you very much, Lauren.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Does anybody else from the organizing committee have anything to share? Azra?
Thank you so much.
Yes, great to see you, Azra.
Hi, how are you doing? Thank you for such a great program. It's been a pleasure to watch and to be one of the organizing committees as the Asia Pacific Research Network, which will certainly go ahead as powerfully as we can across the globe with the people of the world standing to fight and resist the corporate control over our lands. As as I said earlier, I am from Pakistan, and hunger and malnutrition is so apparent here now, especially after the COVID-19. And this is very timely that the Global People Summit is is uh, is taking on these giants who call themselves the world's food suppliers. They are nothing. They are nothing but merchants of death who are responsible for intoxicating our lands, our food systems, our health. So many children are suffering so badly because of the pesticides that are sprayed on the land so freely, because these corporations are able to twist the government systems, the government's regulatory systems, and so we are really colonized people. We stand in solidarity with Palestine, with Kashmir, with all the people who are living in occupied lands. But in essence, all over the world, we are living in occupied lands now. And we need to stand up as a unit, we need to stand up as a wall, and we need to break down these systems of plunder, which have already destroyed so much of our forests, of our ecosystems, of our environment. And more power to us, more power to all of us to go ahead to resist and fight and take control as the people of the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Azra. Thank you. Justine, you're the rep from ESAF. I'd like to ask you about the African perspective, as Agnes is leading the United Nations Food System Summit. What is your perception of the role that AGRA is doing in promoting policy and interventionism on the African continent? Justine, are you here today? Okay, I don't know if Justine is able to call in. We will move towards Julie.
Yeah, hi, Laura.
Hey, Julie.
Yeah, I'm Julie. I'm from PCFS in Europe, based here in Luxembourg. And I've just been reflecting on some of the things that have been said. One thing that quite actually the last two speakers, what we heard from what was happening in the Philippines with Masipag, how under the pandemic they were able to not only produce for themselves and not get into terrible problems of food insecurity, the people who are practicing the agroecology. And then we heard from Azra, and it was going through my mind the whole time that the impact of these of the corporate control of agriculture has been shown even more in the pandemic to not be able to be feeding the world as they like to claim to. There have been so many situations where people have suffered. So maybe this is something that needs to be brought even, very much to the attention of the organizers of the UN summit. I mean, I would love to know how they're going to try to account for themselves when when this is yet another sign or clear evidence of, that we're not the people who are supporting agroecology and the people's right to food. We're not talking nonsense. We're not just coming with sort of crazy theories, but these are really, there's very clear, concrete proof from the ground. And I think this is really something that struck me today and we need to pass on to the organizers. We can really project this. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Julie. You're absolutely right. The evidence is there. Agroecology has been proven time and time again to be extremely effective in agricultural production and feeding the world and meeting the needs of peasant and indigenous communities, yet it's sidelined constantly at these agendas and events. Does anybody else have any questions in the community today? Any media, any representatives have any questions? Isis from GFC, do you have anything to share?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, well, no, I want to thank everyone for organizing this. I think it's very needed. We are happy that we've been invited. We are ready to continue to collaborate because we really need to be very articulated in order to counter this business summit that is taking place, which is not just the food systems, but also has permeated the climate negotiations, the biodiversity negotiations, and probably even more. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Isis. We're so glad to have you here today. I guess we'll close up with Razan. Razan, do you have anything to share, please? Are you there, Razan? Okay, I don't believe that Razan is able to join us right now. Will there anybody be from PCFS that would like to close with the final comments? Sylvia? How about you, Sylvia Monari?
Yeah. Are we ending now, Lauren?
I believe so, unless there's any more questions or there's anything you'd like to add.
I just like to say that if we are fine for now, maybe we can say temporary farewell for now. And there are just so many things to do on the ground. And then we will be meeting soon in all the activities, in all the events that we have laid down. And this is just to thank every one of us who have come here, and to bid us all the best, no, in the coming days and months. And maybe thinking also that we can also start as a perspective. Maybe there is I think there is the food summit coming in September, even our GPS. But I think we can also start thinking the beyond, no, of the people summit too, the food summit too. For I think this will be a long struggle. This will be a long radical transformation that would involve all our efforts and all our thoughts and all our whatever we can contribute in, as I said a while ago, in solidarity, especially with the peoples of the world. That may be it, Lauren, for now. And see you soon and get in touch with you soon.
Thank you, Sylvia, for wrapping up there. Please, everyone, go to the hungryforchange.info website. Follow on Facebook, Our Food Systems. It's on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Follow, share, stay connected. We will send you updates and keep you informed of the progress of the Global People's Summit. Please, one last request. Could everybody turn on their cameras and we take a group shot? Please, everyone here, we'd love to invite you to turn on your cameras and let us take a photo together.